Can Alexander Payne do for Hawaii what he did for California wine country? You're watching Beyond the Trailers review of The Descendants.
I have to go around and tell people what's happening. Family and a few close friends.
I don't want to talk about Mom with anyone.
Look, whatever you two fought about, you have to drop it. Grow up.
You really don't have a clue, do you? Dad, Mom was cheating on you.
But to be honest, Hawaii doesn't really need any help. The vacation mecca is so in demand, it's where the Walt Disney Company decided to build its first standalone resort. But then again, while plenty of movies and TV shows depict the dreamy side of Hawaii, Payne is looking to portray what this paradise is like for the locals. And that is a serious recipe for Oscar gold. The Academy loves these explorations of ordinary American life. Just ask Payne, Jason Reitman, and the Coen brothers, who've made careers doing just that. And while Payne is in his wheelhouse here, so is George Clooney. He's made his own career playing dashing yet quirky rogues, and his character in The Descendants is no different, except in one crucial way. His wife cheats on him. Who would cheat on George Clooney? To convincingly pull off such a story would of course be worthy of multiple Oscars. This is where I admit that I am not personally a George Clooney fan, seeing as how he's blatantly doing a Cary Grant impression. I mean, come on, at least Nicolas Cage has the decency to not do an outright impression of Jimmy Stewart, but instead his interpretation of what Stewart would be like on drugs. But my sister tells me it's impossible not to fall in love with America's Bachelor. However, based on his box office numbers, it would seem America has a love-hate relationship with Clooney. They love him when he's playing Danny Ocean, they hate him in anything else. Then again, Hawaii is surrounded by ocean, so who knows? Let's find out. So today we're doing a BTT Crew review of The Descendants, and we even have one extra crew member.
The movie itself is okay. I thought the tone was very consistent because it sort of goes between being this sort of weird dark comedy and being a very depressing sort of mood movie.
There's a lot of crying, at least in the first half, or the first 30 minutes. So if you're not a big fan of that, you shouldn't go see this movie. It does get less teary towards the end, except maybe the audience gets more teary.
I thought a lot of the dialogue was pretty solid. It wasn't boring at all. It was interesting to follow.
I would say The Descendants was actually like going to visit family for like a bad situation. It had that, very much felt like that. You just followed a bunch of people around you didn't know very well and didn't particularly like. But the plus side was that this family lives in Hawaii. And so that was beautiful.
I really liked getting to see all the different shots of Hawaii and just all the different cultural things. I thought that was really nice and it was really beautiful.
I always think it's interesting to see a dysfunctional family because I think a lot of people go to the movies to get away from thinking about that kind of thing, but I guess not if you're making an Oscar movie.
They still went through the motions of, we all come in for like the group hug and like we all actually care about each other even though we're total pricks. But I didn't really get the sense that they actually meant it.
The daughters in this movie are just horrible, horrible people. Forget the fact that they're daughters. They weren't even just poor daughters. These are people these are girls I wouldn't want to hang out with if I was in school with them. And good luck finding a babysitter for either of them. They were just horrible. And I guess that speaks to the parenting skills in the movie. I mean, you reap what you sow, perhaps. Maybe that, now that I think about it and I'm talking about it here, maybe George Clooney was reaping what he'd sown into his family, which wasn't much. But the problem was that I never saw that. All I saw was this sympathetic, repentant guy, and I felt bad for him.
I agree that George Clooney's character, we don't really get to see anything about him before the movie starts, so we don't really know if he's a good guy or not. And actually, the first couple scenes have him just sitting around and he's narrating, and it just sort of felt like George Clooney was sitting next to me and explaining how his character was feeling at the time.
George Clooney is a white older male, and he just keeps calling himself the authority all the time, and I felt really awkward about that too. It's a really patriarchal movie, for sure.
His wife couldn't defend herself. Nobody defended her. I'm sure she had a lot of problems and was unhappy and was dealing with them somehow. And women are three-dimensional characters that I think Hollywood often doesn't recognize.
A lot of the characters make kind of generalized, stereotypical comments about women that are never they're never discounted. Like someone doesn't say something and someone else is kind of like, oh, that's not true, or something to balance it out so that we don't, as an audience, just get the negatives.
I do not think that George Clooney will win an Oscar for this, and I don't think that the movie will either. I think it's I don't know. Nothing about this movie seemed very fresh at all.
If it does get nominated for anything, if you're really interested in seeing all of them, then I think it is sort of worth it to watch these movies to see sort of to make up your own mind about it and not just take it at face value that, oh, this movie was really good.
I don't know if I would really recommend it. I mean, if you like George Clooney, if you like Hawaii, go for it.
I think it is a good movie to watch with your family if you're with kind of like a mature audience.
So I think that the thing about this movie is that on its own, it's missing a few layers. So that means you have to do like half the work. The audience has to do half the work. So I think it depends on a person's life experiences on what they take away from this movie. For instance, some of my Facebook friends know, like for 3 years now, I've had 2 apartments with mold in them, and it just was a horrible situation. I didn't know I had mold at first. I thought maybe I had a horrible disease. I didn't know what my symptoms, what the cause of them was. No doctors knew. It took a long time to figure out what the problem was, and then it had repercussions. Like I still have really bad, sensitive sinuses, and well, anyway, long story short. I didn't, I still had to go on with my life. Life still had to go on. And I think that one of the things this movie captured so well was that when tragedy happens, life doesn't stop. You still have to do even the most mundane, everyday little things, and you have to deal with it, and you just have to keep going with the flow. And sometimes people don't know what you're going through, and I think this movie also kind of touched on that. And like that's one of the things my experience taught me. I didn't go around just telling everybody that I met what was going on, and like maybe some days I'd be a little off, and maybe people didn't know why, and that would be why. And I think it's interesting to realize when you're out in the real world. I think this is something you don't realize when you're little. When you're out in the real world, people have problems that are below the surface they don't talk about. And you could be standing next to someone and they could be going through like a life-changing, tragic experience, and they just seem a little down to you. And so I think this movie captured that very well.
Scale of 1 to 10, I would give it maybe a 6.5.
I probably would give it a 7.
Taking out my personal experience that I related to the movie, I would give this movie on its own. I think this movie is a 7.
I really didn't like this movie. I'd give it a 3.5.
So overall, we give The Descendants a 6. What did you think of the film? If you've seen it, leave your thoughts down below. I'm Grace Randolph reporting from AMC Empire 25, and I hope we'll go beyond the trailer for these other top movies.